Hello, everybody. Allie Duzett here with my girl, Janelle. Janelle runs the Part-Time CEO, and I adore her so much. I'm super excited to have her on today because we're going to talk about Ukraine. And one thing that I did not know about Janelle, in addition to being an amazingly fabulous business guru, she used to be a history teacher. Is that true?
It is true. Yes. I am not an expert. I have to give this caveat to your audience. Okay. I'm not an expert on the Ukraine, but I feel like all the experts on the Ukraine are busy. So Allie was stuck with me, but I do love history. I'm obsessed with history. I was a history teacher. So here we go. I'm just really a curious person more so.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So I don't even know where to begin except, I don't know. Tell us, what do we need to know to understand the situation that's happening right now?
Yeah. So I think that has been a major question. I think for a lot of people, like, this is just completely coming out of nowhere, right? Like, why is Russia attacking the Ukraine, right? And it just feels very strange. So I think we have to go kind of all the way back to 1949. So that is when NATO was formed. Okay, so I'm just going to give a really quick synopsis. So NATO was formed in 1949. NATO is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, for those who don't know. And it was formed kind of at the cusp of the Cold War, right? So if you might remember in history class, like, communism was on the rise after World War II, and it was just kind of like the democracies versus the communists, right? And that was kind of a major theme for a significant amount of time in, the 1900s. So NATO was formed to protect these democratic countries, in particular Europe and Canada and the US, from the threat of communist countries being Russia and China, mostly at that time, and still mostly. Those are our biggest threats in terms of, like, the world stage still. And so that's kind of when, like, the nuclear arms race was happening, and it was the people were afraid of a nuclear war. All of that formed NATO. The USSR. So it wasn't Russia at the time. It was the Soviet Union. The USSR formed the Warsaw Treaty Organization, or known as the Warsaw Pact, and all of the USSR plus all these Eastern European countries, which included like Poland and Romania, formed their own treaty, their own military alliance. And so basically the two treaties were that if any country attacks a member of NATO, all of the other NATO countries would come to their defense, vice versa with the Warsaw Pact. The thing is that the Warsaw Pact dissolved in 1991 when the USSR dissolved, and all of these countries became their own independent states. So countries like Romania and Lithuania and all those became independent states, and a bunch of them joined NATO, okay? But Ukraine didn't, and to join, but they have not been accepted yet. And so that's kind of a big.
The computer cut out.
And is because we don't want to make. Oh, I'm sorry. Where did I cut off? Let me put my phone on airplane mode. Where did I cut off?
So Ukraine is not a member of NATO, but they've been applying to join.
Yes, they have been wanting to join, and NATO has said, okay, here are the things that you need to do to join. And supposedly Ukraine has done a very good job of doing those things, and so they should be on the track to become a part of NATO, but they're not yet. And so that's been a whole thing. So that's really why the entire world isn't like sending troops. Like, they're sending weapons, but they're not sending troops because Ukraine is not a part of NATO technically. But all of the other countries around the Ukraine are, except for Belarus, which is aligned with Russia.
Okay. And that's why they need the Chernobyl region. That's what I was understanding, right? Because my own family has ties to like nuclear science out there. And fun fact, I actually used to live in Eastern Europe with my grandpa, who worked in the International Atomic Energy Agency. And So anyway, so there's a big thing with the Russians have taken the Chernobyl area, which is obviously radioactive, so this can cause a lot of problems, but I understand it's because that Chernobyl region kind of is the spot between Russia and Belarus. I have no idea.
I'm not sure exactly where Chernobyl is actually, but I do know they've annexed Crimea, which is south of the Ukraine. And I know that Russia has been on the hunt for a warm water port for a very long time.
Is that what this is? Looking for the port?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's what this is. And I think that's part of the problem is no one really understands what Russia's doing. There's a couple of things that people are speculating. So number one is, I don't know if you remember, I was in high school, Allie, but Russia invaded Georgia looking for a warm water port. That was not taken very well. They did annex Crimea, which is just south of the Ukraine. So literally took it over in 2014, just decided to do that. And so it's on the Black Sea. So that does have a warm water port. So the question is, okay, why do they want the Ukraine too? What Russia is saying, which I'm excited to dig in a little bit more into the astrology here. What Russia is saying is that they feel threatened by NATO because since the USSR dissolved, all of these countries have been very excited to join NATO, right? So all these countries that used to be part of Russia, the USSR, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Hungary, right? All of those, they are now independent countries, very excited to be a part of NATO. But again, Ukraine has not been allowed in because I think there is this fear for NATO of provoking Russia if they get too close to its borders, because this whole time Russia has been saying, whoa, 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 why are you encroaching? Why? And they're playing victim. And they're playing like we need to defend ourselves against these NATO aggressors, even though it's a defensive alliance, not an offensive alliance. But they're saying these NATO aggressors are encroaching on our borders, so we need to defend ourselves. And so that's kind of the justification for why they are moving westward. But it's also some of the justification of why NATO has not allowed Ukraine in yet, so as not to provoke Russia, which here we are.
Wow. Okay. So I do want to mention something really fast because I know that, I don't know, I know of a lot of people that, I don't know, message me and stuff, or, there's a lot of conflicting ideas about everything going on in Russia and Ukraine, and like, is it a false flag, or like, a lot of talk about maybe Russia isn't the bad guy after all, or this kind of thing. And so I just want to mention that I'm aware of all of these different kind of takes on the situation, and just to honor that there is a lot of confusion about what is actually happening. But one thing that I do believe is truly happening is there are actual real explosions and people really are on the run, and like whoever is a good guy or a bad guy, there really is some actual destruction that's happening on the ground in Ukraine right now. So I hope that if you are a person that feels like, everybody's being misled and this is a big false flag, I honor that. But we're gonna kind of talk about, I don't know, whatever we're going to talk about. And so I just honoring that perspective as well. But back to the program.
Totally.
Yeah. So, okay. So thank you for this. So, because I was thinking like NATO, I'm pretty sure they don't plan to invade anybody. So like, why would Russia feel threatened by them? But this, I can see how they could say, oh, the aggressors are encroaching on our space. And when you talk about how NATO's reluctance to allow Ukraine to join, that does, it all just screams like World War I and II to me, right? Or like, is that true? Where it's like, it's all just the treaties that drag everybody else in, and all of a sudden, literally everybody's at war. And it's like, oh, isn't this kind of the same? Like, this is a little bit of the same setup. Is that?
Indeed. And so here's the thing. This could pretty easily, and certainly this is not predictive. I don't think we're making any predictions here, but it could because of the way that these alliances are structured. And again, yeah, NATO is a defensive alliance. It's not offensive. And so they did not have any plans of attacking anybody. There is some other speculation of, right now the price of a barrel of oil is very high, and war increases the prices of barrels of oil. And Russia doesn't really have many other exports, maybe vodka, right? But aside from fossil fuels, and because many nations, including the U.S., are reliant on fossil fuels and importing fossil fuels, some experts are speculating that maybe Russia is going to war in order to maintain that high price of oil and to bump up their economy. I'm not sure. But I do think that, there's definitely a level of confusion. And I want to honor what you said of like, we don't know what they're thinking. I have no clue what Putin's thinking. But yes, it does sound like World War III in the sense that, I think if the United States and NATO were to get involved very directly, more so than just sending supplies like they are right now, Putin and Xi, the leader of China right now, they just had a very what's the word? They just had a meeting, during the Olympics. It was the leader of China's first meeting in person since the start of COVID. And Putin was his guest of honor at the Olympics. And so it's just interesting. And so, but China has not chosen sides yet. And so anyway, there's a whole thing with China and Taiwan also playing out here. But indeed, if NATO were to get involved directly, I think Russia would bring China in, at which point it would become a world war.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Man, I had like all these thoughts while you were talking about that, and now I suddenly can't remember them. But that's it. That's why. I mean, is it just me, or did gas prices literally jump a whole dime in a single week this week? And so because you're right, I did read that we as America import 595,000 barrels of oil from Russia every week. Is that correct? Yes. Is that every day?
I'm not sure. I remember it was a very high number every day. I want to say it was, I don't remember the exact number, so I don't want to misspeak, but a very high number.
A ton of oil from them, and we are extremely dependent on Russia. So we're still buying oil from them right now, I think. Right? Yes. But even though if we really cared, we would stop buying. But if we did that, since our current president shut down the Keystone Pipeline, like we would not have the energy independence. Like we don't have energy independence. We need them. We need the oil from Russia in order to maintain the lifestyles that we currently have. Like if that's the thing I've been thinking of, like, if I'm still going to go visit my family members that live an hour away pretty regularly, like, I can't, like, that's just not a reality anymore. Depending on the gas price situation, because the prices are reflective of the supply. Like, it's not just that gas is just magically more expensive now. It's that it's more expensive because the supply is still high because the demand is still high. And now there's a strain on the supply, which is the situation that's happening.
Which is war. Exactly. Well, and I think also too, because you have to remember with economics, it's not just supply and demand, it's also perception. And it's perceived supply and demand. And so that's the thing that makes war actually quite convenient for the economy. Not saying war is a good thing at all ever, but it is typically convenient for the economy because it ramps up production of, metals and, airplanes and weapons and all. And so it increases the trade of metals and of course also fossil fuels. So, and all energy pretty much. So yeah, we are not energy independent, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I have Ukraine's star chart here.
Yeah.
If I can find where to share my screen. Okay. And so one thing that I read recently, is that it was by somebody that was complaining about calling it the Ukraine versus Ukraine, which I guess is a relic of the Russian terminology for it. Have you heard of this?
No.
Okay, apparently the reason why we call it the Ukraine is because Russia has always called it the Ukraine as like, it's like the forest and the ocean and the Ukraine. It's just like the place. It's not like its own place, you know? And apparently that's how they refer to Alaska as well. They call it the Alaska, which, you know, as soon as that person like put it into context for me, I was like, it is a little disconcerting to hear that they refer to Alaska as the Alaska, like they can just, it's just that little pesky thing in the way between us and what we really want to do.
Right.
Oh my.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Memories of Sarah Palin come to mind.
Yeah, it's so true. So this is Ukraine's birth chart counting from August 24th of 1991 at 6 o'clock. Oh my gosh, let me double check because I ran it from 6 o'clock.
Let's see, I have it from 5:31 p.m.
5:31 p.m.
Yes, and it's in Kyiv. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, then let's edit this chart. 5:31 p.m. I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be 6 p.m., but okay, let's update the saved chart. Okay, there we go. Okay.
There we go.
Very good. Okay, very good. So yes. The stuff I had been reading about the astrology of Ukraine was that it is a Virgo nation, and Virgo is a hard worker. That is the thing about Virgo. It's an earth sign. It loves working. And I think that is pretty true of Ukraine and Ukrainians. Yeah. And here we have a rising Capricorn and double Capricorn. And so, yes, and all of this Capricorn in here is going to be very, worker centric. And this is a very earthy, between the sun and the rising and all of the stuff going on in here, there's plenty of earth energy going on in here.
Yeah.
And this interesting little grand cross here, although it's with Hygeia and nobody cares about Hygeia usually. So yeah, interesting. Does anything about this stand out to you?
Yeah, something that really stood out to me. And when we overlay it, so I was using Russia's chart from 862. I know that we had talked about using it from 1991, but something that was interesting to me was Eris on actually both the Russian and the Ukrainian charts, which I know Eris is an asteroid that is not typically talked about. Actually with the 1991, okay. So they're conjunct. So Eris and with the Ukraine and Russia's Eris are conjunct in the second house.
I see. Right? That's from the 1981. It's a very, very slow moving thing. Eris is very slow moving. Yeah.
So in the 862 one chart for Russia, Eris was conjunct Russia's Pluto. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go.
But I think that is important to mention because Eris is like the almost warmongering female, right? Like she just gets pissed and she'll fight, and she's violent and she'll fight to the death about whatever it is. And it's in Aries in the second house, which is like my land, my property, my stuff. And it's interesting because I think Pluto and Eris is an interesting conjunction. I also think that Eris and Eris is an interesting conjunction where I feel like they're just going to battle it out.
Yeah, the discord for sure.
I found that interesting. Also with Russia's chart, the 862 chart, it's in the third house. Their Eris is in the third house, which is the house of communication.
Move it around. Okay, here it is. Oh, there it is in communication. Oh, wow. And in Pisces, which is going to be a little deceptive.
Exactly. And so here's the thing. So here's another speculation that's on, or actually this isn't speculation. This is actually fact. So Russia, in particular Putin, has been saying for several years now that the reason why Russia is angry that NATO keeps encroaching and moving east is because supposedly when the USSR dissolved in 1991, supposedly Mikhail Gorbachev, who was the leader of the USSR at the time, was told that after admitting West Germany into NATO, NATO would no longer move east. So that is what they have been, that's a miscommunication. And it's also a deception because Gorbachev has since come out and said that he had no such conversation with NATO, but Putin has insisted that that is true. And so basically he's saying that NATO is breaching their agreement by accepting members further east than West Germany.
So, okay, so thank you for that. So I want to look at this Russia's birthday chart for a moment, because I just noticed something interesting. And then we have to go back and talk about Ukraine, because I remembered something interesting about that as well. So I have two different charts for Russia's birthday. And this one is from 862. And then I have another one for the 1991 dissolution of the USSR and recreation of, modern Russia. But Janelle and I were talking earlier about how kind of this one is still valid in its way. Like I do feel like it is still a valid chart for kind of like the region, more so than like the exact nation, but kind of like the area, and kind of like, will I use this word wrong? Like the gestalt of the feeling and the ambiance of the humanity of the region beyond the nation itself. But here's what I just noticed. So I run a tropical Placidus chart. And so what that means is that it measures not from the equator, but from where the person is on the actual globe. And I have no ball in here, so I can't demonstrate on a ball, but instead of being at the equator, Russia's pretty far north, right? And so you can see here, that's how interceptions happen. You can't have an interception at the equator because all of the houses are the same size. But see, look at this. This 12th house is enormously small.
Yes.
And this one is small too. And this one is small too. And so is this one. And what you can see here is that there's actually 4 intercepted signs. The Virgo and Pisces axis is completely intercepted. And Gemini and Sagittarius are completely intercepted. And we have 4 double signs: Libra, Libra, Scorpio, Scorpio, Aries, Aries, Taurus, Taurus. Okay, so what does that mean? Here's the thing. Intercepted signs are hard to access, and double signs, you get an extra helping. So what do we have here? An extra helping of Libra. Double Libra is going to be obsessed about what is fair.
Yes.
It needs it to be fair. And the sun is exact Saturn at 1 degree of Libra. That is a super obsession with fairness. And it is 2 degrees away from the midheaven. This is an obsession with that things have to be fair. Mm-hmm. Scorpio, double Scorpio, death and rebirth, and also death. I don't know if you guys have seen that joke. Do you know this joke, the meme of like all the literature? And it's like
Russian literature being super dark.
Yeah, let me see.
I haven't seen the meme, but I've noticed that just in life.
Oh, here it is. I found it for us all. So let me share the let me find it. Let me figure out how to share it. Because it's like a little bit funny and relevant. So might as well. Let's go, internet. Okay. English literature, I will die for honor. French literature, I will die for love. American literature, I will die for freedom. Russian literature, I will die. I just think
and I'm fact checking myself for a quick second here. Okay, so Leo Tolstoy, for those of you, he wrote Anna Karenina. For those of you who are interested in human design, he was a reflector. And so I just think that is like interesting, of reflectors just reflect what's happening in society and just what's going on. And he very much, I think in his work, reflected Russia. in particular in Anna Karenina. So anyway, I just wanted to say that.
Thank
While
you
we're talking about Russian literature.
Yeah, thank you. I actually haven't read that, but it's on the list.
Yes.
The other double sign is Aries, which is all about war, and we have Pluto in Aries. That's like death and rebirth in the area of wars. That's quite a lot. And then double Taurus is going to be obsessed with land. So we have double energies here in kind of like the area of Russia. But let's see, I wanted to grab, okay, this is the other Russian chart, and let's do a little switcheroo. Oh, wait, nope, maybe I'm using the wrong thing after all. Okay, 862. Okay, this is what I noticed, is that Russia's 862 chart has Neptune at 21 degrees of Aquarius, and Ukraine's moon is at 22 degrees of Aquarius. And so Neptune deals with deception. And one of my friends has been sending me kind of at least what she would call the Russian propaganda about what are they saying that they're doing this for. And when I have read it, I mean, clearly, in my opinion, Russia kind of went into this thinking, you know, the Ukrainians really want to join us. We're going to liberate them. And then what happened? They didn't want to do that. And so they are like fighting for their lives. They're fighting tooth and nail to not join them. And so this is going to be deception around what Ukrainians are feeling, the moon, and about revolution. So that's like kind of a really interesting little conjunction there.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about the South Node? And let's see, can you go back to Russia? Yeah.
Okay. Both or just one?
Yeah, well, both is fine. So just having the South Node and Eris in Pisces here with Russia's chart, can you talk a little bit, because you mentioned deception. I think that's, we think about Pisces and we think about like emotional and compassionate and intuitive. And so, but what is, I mean, obviously these aren't the highest forms, like these countries are not being their highest selves right now. So can you talk about what you meant when you talk about Pisces and deception?
Yeah, Pisces and Neptune and the 12th house they all go together. They're little frenzies, you know, and they deal with the subconscious mind. They deal with what's under the surface, and how do I put it? Kind of, so I would say Scorpio and Pluto deal with the subconscious mind. Pisces and Neptune in the 12th house deal with the unconscious mind, the part that's even under the subconscious mind. It's so far out there, you don't even know that you don't know that you don't know it. Like that is Pisces. And so because Pisces is kind of hidden, you know, like if you think about your unconscious mind, it's not just that it's not conscious. You literally can't even see it. You have a skull in the way. You have like bones in the way and like hair and stuff, like no one can see it. And so because of its hidden nature, a lot of times Pisces and Neptune, it ends up being unintentionally deceptive, and I would say typically that's the case with Pisces. Like I would say Scorpio can tend to be more intentionally deceptive, but for Pisces, not on purpose.
Right.
Yeah, it's just not known. And
so Russia probably really believes this. Like they
may truly and honest to God believe that they are doing Ukraine a service. Yeah, they may truly believe that. And so, yeah, I think that really could be the case. Wherever Pisces is, there's really that risk of self-delusion because things are hidden. And so, and Neptune and Pisces also deal with glamour, wanting things to look beautiful. And I mean, when I see, you know, a Neptune conjunct somebody's moon, a lot of times they are the sort that will like actually get like permanent makeup or something because they just want to be beautiful all the time. You know, Neptune and Pisces can kind of beauty and stuff like that's important to them, to the point where they can kind of delude themselves about reality. And those are also the parts in a chart where you're going to look for mental illness, to be honest. Like if somebody says, I have bipolar or something, well, you're going to have to take a look at Pisces and see what it's up to in a chart.
Interesting. Okay. And then, so while we're talking about Scorpio or in Pisces and Scorpio, I noticed that Russia's Venus is conjunct in the 12th house, is conjunct to the degree. Is that Ukraine's Pluto?
That is Ukraine's Pluto. Yeah.
What insights do you have about that?
Oh my goodness. Well, I hadn't even noticed that.
That's a conspicuous conjunction.
That's true. I mean, to me, Venus can deal with money. And so, I don't know if you've seen that meme about all of the resources that are in Ukraine. Like they have a ton of natural resources.
I had heard about that because China hasn't fully picked a side yet. And I was wondering, why haven't they picked a side? Because of Ukraine's natural resources. Okay.
That probably has a big thing to do with it, because it is an enormous amount of land, and it has, it's a very high quality land as far as I understand it. And they have just tons and tons of resources. I mean, it would be a good land to have if you wanted to make a bunch of money off of it, which Venus is in charge of money. And so here, I mean, the death and rebirth of Ukraine could lead to some, money for Russia, just astrologically speaking. So, but of course, this is also in the 12th house. So again, they may actually believe that they're doing like an emotional service. We're going to set you all free from your oppressors. And maybe the money thing is like, more under the surface for them. Like like looking at the chart, I could see that they could easily assume, like, say, oh, we're not really interested in the resources, even though they are, but like, they might really not feel like that's the primary goal.
Well, and also too, being that Venus is in its detriment in Scorpio, the money and what annexing the Ukraine could do for them might not be worth it.
Yeah, that's true also. I'm going to grab my baby real fast, but keep talking.
Well, the only other thing that I wanted to talk about was Russia's obsession with fairness. And I guess, so Russia is the inner ring here. So you can still see how like the sun and Saturn are conjunct to the degree, almost conjunct to the degree with their midheaven. And then this is a double Libra house. So the thing with Russia and fairness is that they have, been saying that, and this is what Putin has been saying for the last several months, is like the West needs to understand that the age of their economics, I'm totally paraphrasing, but that the age of their economic superiority is over. And it's almost like Russia is just really angry that one, I guess, nation being the United States or one region being the West has this economic stronghold over the world, which maybe a lot of people think that that's unfair. Like that is not an invalid point, right? But he is just, there's this obsession with it's not fair and it shouldn't be. And I don't know, it's been expressed quite a bit over the last few months. So I feel like maybe there's something there. Ooh, interesting.
So this is Putin's star chart. And it may not be 100% accurate because the 9:30 a.m. there is they're not 100% sure of this time. So, sure, it may be off a little bit, but this is the chart that people typically use. And so, of course, what do we have going on with him? Tons of stuff in fairness. Libra. Yeah, all about fairness. Everything is unfair. Everything is unfair, right? Yeah. So that, to me, so this is his sun. It's Saturn, which it's like Saturn rules comeuppances. It rules taking. I mean, it's all about consequences. Let's put it that way. It wants everything, it wants justice, right? Saturn is about justice. And so here it is conjunct his sun. So he's got an obsession, not just with things being fair, but he's going to make it fair.
Well, just like Russia.
Yeah.
Russia had Saturn conjunct its sun in Libra to the degree.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, and this is what I think is interesting about him. His Pluto is within a degree of the midheaven of this chart, which may not be an accurate chart. Again, I mean, like, it may not be super accurate. It will be accurate mostly. But the midheaven is one thing that would not be accurate if the numbers are very far off. But for this chart, I do think that's interesting. And I think it would make a lot of sense for him to be a Leo midheaven. Because look at this little sandwich here of the South Node, the midheaven, and Pluto. So that's kind of like the karmic baggage of ancestors. Okay, so he's like avenging for all of ancestral Russia. The midheaven is what is the world going to know him for? And Pluto is going to be death and rebirth. Leo, I always say Leo is like Simba in The Lion King, and that it's known for being kind of like fun and charismatic. And I would say Putin is very charismatic and fun. He literally has his own cheerleading squad. I don't know if you know that. Have you seen
No.
he has a cheerleading squad just for him. It's crazy town,
That is Leo.
With himself, like shirtless on like horseback, that's like so Leo. And but I was thinking Leo would be a great indicator of actually a dictator. Like, don't you think? Like the like hero worship, obsession, like charisma that inspires people to follow them. And so looking at that, I thought, oh my, like that it looks accurate to me. I don't know. So
absolutely, it does feel accurate. And I think what's interesting too is his IC being in Aquarius. Like if he were leaning into his North Node and his purpose, like he has a lot of power that could be used to make the world a better place if he wanted to. But it seems like he's leaned very far in the other direction, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, and she said that for my newbies here, Aquarius is in charge of like humanitarian impulses, and it will lead a revolution, but because it wants the world to be a better place for everybody. And, he might come from that perspective. He may think that that's what he is doing, that he is leading a revolution on behalf of all humans. I'm going to save the world from those American bad guys. I mean, he may be thinking that
You're right.
Stays.
Yeah. He may really feel that. And I mean, I don't know who's right. I don't know.
Well, right. And I think that is one of the things about astrology is just that, everybody's viewpoint is really different. And I think we can all see his perspective of feeling like it isn't fair. America's, so prosperous. What about poor Russia? I'm just gonna, pick some fights to save the world. Like we can see where he's coming from, I think, and to like whatever extent. Even though we may disagree, of course,
Absolutely. Well, and I think both of us have aspects in our chart that make us, quite open-minded to seeing other people's perspectives. I did just want to, if you don't mind, were you going to dig it? This is fascinating. So
I just wanted to see what this was, and that because I thought there must be something with his Uranus. And so it's interesting that it's conjunct Ukraine's part of fortune and it's exact their south node. That's the thing. It is exact their south node. So he gets to bring Uranus's unexpected events and like shocking war, which this is. And so the unexpected shock of it, like, I don't know, having it be exact their south node, like this is a thing that I feel like the energy field of Ukraine, I mean, like, clearly this is written in the stars. I don't know, like, what are the odds that Putin's Uranus would be exact? Oh my gosh, look, within 1 minute, 23, 22, yeah, of their south node.
Wow.
What were you going to say?
Well, and I'm just I'm taking this chart in a little bit because, wait, Allie, wait till you see this. Look on the other side where Ukraine's Uranus is it's a close enough, right, to Putin's Chiron.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if it's conjunct, but it's close.
Yeah. Well, let's double check. This is called an aspectarian for my friends here. Okay, so Ukraine's Uranus is conjunct Putin's Chiron. So that's Putin's soul wound, his personal soul wound, and that is Uranus. That's the unexpected events of Ukraine, like his soul wound and mastery. So it deals with both wounding and like, what are you the greatest at? Well, he's kind of the greatest at triggering massive shock and horror to the Ukrainians, apparently. So
wow.
Yeah, that is really, really interesting. Well, and I had read somewhere else that the okay, let's switch it back around. Oh, and my kids just got home, so they're all gonna march on through here in just a moment. But where is it? Uranus at 10 degrees of Capricorn. During the beginning of the invasion. Oh, careful. Shh, shh, shh. Hey guys. Okay. Shh, 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 shh. All of the the transiting Uranus was at 10 degrees of Taurus, like during that week. Okay, does that make sense?
So is that a trine?
Hold on. It was a trine. Exactly. It was trine. So this person was saying that the worst is over because that, like, whenever the Uranus and Uranus would be trine, that would be pretty bad. But now it's not, and now it can't be for a long time, you know?
Right.
So I mean, like for decades now. Okay.
Sure.
So she was saying, oh, well, they're probably the worst is over with but anyway, I just thought it was interesting that, of course, you know, the unexpected shock of an invasion would happen, and again, or an alleged invasion, if people want to call it that, but that it would happen right as Uranus was transiting this trine aspect with the natal Uranus.
That's fascinating. And I have heard people say that, there are already, I think Russia's really shocked that they weren't greeted with like flowers in some cities. Like, I think they really did expect to be liberating Ukrainians. And so I have heard whispers that there are already kind of talks that people, like, the violence is kind of winding down. So I hope that is true. But I guess that remains to be seen. But I was wondering, Allie, if you could put Russia in the inner circle and Ukraine on the outer circle for a second.
Yeah. Do you want the 862 or the...
I was using 862. I think it might be worthwhile to look at the 1991 Russia, but
inside.
I bet Russia on the inside, yeah. But I feel like Russia has been, I think we talked about this, like Russia has been Russia for quite a long time. Something that I wanted to bring to your attention, Allie, and kind of hear your thoughts on are the fact that, so let me find it, Russia's soul wound, so the Chiron at 24 degrees Leo here, is triggered by the Ukraine's Jupiter, Mercury, even Venus. So what is that? What message does that share?
I mean, I think obviously their prosperity, that's that Venus and Jupiter, their prosperity, and Mercury would be them signaling their prosperity is going to be a big trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and look at that. So let's pull, let's just do Russia. Well, we're gonna be late. And we're gonna pull out this spot right here. Oh, what was I going to do? Okay, I wanted to look at that if this was considered a conjunct, which it's not close enough, but still kind of interesting that
they're both in Leo.
Mars. Yeah. Here, I'll take it. Hello.
Yeah. A lot going on here. So do you want to look at the 1991 Russia just to see it?
Wow. And so we take a look at this chart, and first off, there is a ton going on in Capricorn. And what else is going on in Capricorn right now? It is the Pluto return for America is in Capricorn. Venus and Mars are in Capricorn conjunct, which is love and war. And so that's all going on right now. And it has been, in like the teens of Capricorn here. And then we have this rising Leo and double Leo. And to me, I was like, oh man, they love having a charismatic leader. Like, yeah, they love that. And that's part of what they are known for.
Wow. Yes. And their Chiron is right there as well. So, what's so interesting about Russia is I have some friends who are from Russia, and we always talk about how like Russian women are just so gorgeous. And I don't know if you watched the Winter Olympics, but the ice skater in the couple for Russia was just like a supermodel, and we were all just like Googling it all over her. And I was just thinking about that, like how interesting that is, that she's a Leo rising, Russia is a Leo rising, and Leos are just known for just, really caring about their appearances and just being so charismatic and, somewhat attractive. And I just think that's just really interesting to see.
Yeah, no, that is totally true. So this is Russia's 1991 chart on the inside and America's natal chart from 1776 on the outside. And so
very triggering over there in Cancer.
Well, right. That's why I wanted to pull it, because I saw their south node's at 9 degrees. Our sun's at 13 degrees. We have all of this stuff going on. This Jupiter and Venus this is part of why America is so prosperous astrologically. Like prosperity is part of our sun because of this placement. And what is more triggering to Russia? Like, they hate it. Yep. And I say they, but it's just like, it's kind of just like the energy of the nation itself, not like human beings,
not individual
people. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And over here, America's natal Eris, again, the goddess of discord, is at 8 degrees, and their north node is at 9 degrees of Capricorn. So it's like the destiny to be kind of like butting heads.
Well, and their sun is at 3 degrees as well, which is, I think, pretty close.
Yeah. That's true. That would be considered within orb. So yeah.
Very, very interesting. So I think I had found this. So there were a couple of things that I noticed when I did the 862 Russian birthday, but I think that there are some interesting things here as well. So we're on the outside, right? So our ascendant being pretty close to their Mars, which is war. And in the 862 Russian chart, their Mars is actually conjunct our part of fortune.
Their Mars is conjunct our part of fortune.
Hold on. Maybe it's our Mars. Nope.
Oh, our Mars is conjunct their Jupiter, though.
Yeah, I got that wrong.
Oh.
Okay. What was I looking at then?
Interesting.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know maybe I meant Jupiter.
Yeah, well, they go together. I mean, it's all fortunate stuff. Yeah. So, wow. Huh. Yeah. Well, do we have any concluding thoughts for today? Any thoughts from you? Well, if we could just, my big goal with today was just to explore and see what we could learn about what's going on, because like, who knows what's going on? So I feel like we did that, even though I'm not necessarily sure,
I know
with all this information, except to just have it on the back burner, I guess.
I know. I just, I feel like education and knowledge is power, right? And so I've had a great time just kind of doing the research and figuring out, okay, what is actually going on here? Because, I think that it's really easy to be scared when we don't really understand what's going on, and people are just like, oh my God, like nuclear war, like World War III, and inflation. And there's a lot that's kind of tying into this. And so I really feel like my goal and our goal for this conversation was just like, let's just shed some light on the darkness and let's glean some knowledge and some education so that we, first of all, understand, what's going on. but also so that maybe it's a little bit less scary. I don't know if we made it less scary, but I think we tried. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, yep, education is good. And just having a clear idea of kind of what are the astrological energies in play. I think looking at all these charts, I can see that there's definitely the astrological flavor of things being unfair and a strong element of possible discord. And so I guess we'll just see how it plays out. And thank you for the historical rundown. It's so fun that you have that background. And I guess for all of us, just to remember, there's nothing to be afraid of here. The thing that I love about the stars is that, I mean, I know, Janelle, you are also Christian, like we're Christian. And to me, it just lets me know that God is supremely aware of everything that's going on a geopolitical stage, and that he's got his eye on it, like he's got his hand on it. And we are not smarter than God. So I don't know why what's going on is such a great idea or whatever, but I do believe that because he's in charge and this is all clearly like in the stars for whatever that's worth, like to me, that just says that we're going to be okay as long as we're teaming up with the right guy, you know?
Yeah, that's something that I just love about you, Allie, is that you're always sharing, like, we don't panic. We don't get to be scared. Like, we don't get to be weird. We just get to take a peek and to see what's going on. And knowledge is power. And it truly is our connection to the divine that sustains us and that will keep us safe and secure, you know, no matter what may come. And yeah, so I'm Christian, I'm Catholic. And there's a quote that I love from St. Hildegard of Bingen, who was a medieval doctor, actually. And she's a doctor of the church. And she talked in some of her books, one of the few women published in the medieval times. And she talks about how the stars they just reflect back to us what's happening. And I just think that that's so gorgeous. Like, this is just a reflection back to us of what's happening. And I just feel so privileged that we can take a look at this and be like, what's happening? And, you know, combine our knowledge of history and what's going on, you know, BBC, and then also the astrology chart. So, so anyway, Allie, thank you so much for having me. This has been fun.
Yes, thank you so much. Oh, say goodbye. Goodbye, guys.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you.